Hey, this is Jimmy, the host of the Internet Explorers podcast, your late-night internet spirit animal in human form. And I'm inviting you to come check out my show where we venture into the wildest corners of the internet to study strange happenings, media hoaxes, and weird science. You know, the fun stuff.
2, 3, 4, Internet Explorers podcast!
Tuning wherever reality is optional.
Plug in, tune out, and get lost.
Content warning for profanity, violence, and adult themes. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 17, Back on Scam Likely. Enjoy! When Wendell came to, he was in a small cabin with a short creature with a kite for a head, eyes in every corner, and a large mouth in the middle, and a little metallic robot body. Benny smiled and said, "Welcome back, buddy." "What the hell, Benny? Why did you do that?" "You're welcome. You don't want to waste your money on those fancy and relaxing cruise ships. They're a total scam." "Waste money? I already paid for my ticket. My non-refundable ticket." "Don't worry, we won't charge you. And consider it a friendly favor. Plus, we missed you and wanted to see how your doctor school thing went." Benny gave a crooked grin, and Wendell found that he couldn't stay mad. Annoyed. Very annoyed, but not mad. Long story, Benny. Let's grab a Sanka." They walked to the galley, and Wendell caught Benny up on everything that happened on Pariah 7. Benny snickered. "You don't know what a stapler looks like?" "Not the point. Hey, where is everyone?" "Oh yeah, about that. We're being stalked by killbots, and we'll probably die soon. Want more Thanka?" "What? Seriously? And you couldn't let me on the cruise ship?" "Calm down, have a seat, and I'll exposition dump. Tell, don't show, as the writers say." They drank their Sanka, and Benny caught Wendell up. The long and short of it is this. Killbots had gotten out of control, just as Wendell saw on Pariah 7. They were attacking ships for no reason by slicing them open and watching passengers suffocate and die painful deaths. Only then would they board the ship, or they may just tear up a ship to pieces and leave it as debris. The crew of Scam Likely, as well as several others, had enough. They could only run and hide so much. They made a plan involving strength in numbers. "So that's what everyone else is doing, working out last-minute details." "Why is this not reassuring?" thought Wendell. Benny and Wendell entered the flight deck. Zetz gave Wendell a warm hug, and Dolly's cheery voice shot through the intercom. "Howdy, Shug." "I didn't believe Benny when he said you'd rather be with us than on some luxury cruise ship, but here you are." Zetz smiled, and Wendell glared at Benny. Kumar, still large and imposing, stared down Wendell. "You've got some nerve coming back here, little man." I am so sorry, Kumar. I had no idea about your sister's memorial. And look, I don't know if this will help, but I found this for you." Wendell pulled a package out of his backpack he had found in the Wax Mine gift shop. It was a container of the sacred blue water of Kumar's home planet. "Please, accept this and my apologies." Kumar took the container, looked at Wendell, sighed, and then shook his head. "Benny told me you only did that because you're a dumbass half-wit. So, It would be wrong to not forgive you.
Thanks.
Later, you can help me restore my sister's memorial.
Absolutely.
They explained the plan to Wendell against the killbots in more detail, while Benny double-checked the ship's engines. Kill ships were deadly, but not very imaginative. They almost always ambushed their prey coming out of wormholes. And because kill ships were designed as the alpha predator, they had weak defenses against attacks. And finally, they were so efficient that only 2 or 3 at most were needed for any given ambush. So, Sport, we're going to use numbers to our advantage. Dolly has been working with the other ships, and we have good information kill ships are planning multiple ambushes amongst multiple wormholes. They're planning a slaughter, and nobody knows why. So we have put together a mass of ships to outnumber them.
Mind if I sit up here?
Wendell asked, not wanting to miss the action, forgetting how terrified he had been first time flying. Sure, but stay quiet. No squeaking like a little hatchling, said Kumar.
Deal.
They continued towards the wormhole. Wendell sat back in his booster seat, strapped in and looked at the stars. He remembered how overwhelmed he first felt, but the stars had changed into something else. Possibilities? A chance to explore? At least for others, Wendell thought. Coming up to the gate, Zetz called into the intercom. As they pulled up to the floating toll booth, Wendell saw a familiar tollgate worker, a greenish troll-like figure with tentacles for a beard. Jeff. Wendell remembered the bad blood between Jeff and the ship's crew, and he yelled, "Fuck you, Jeff!" and flipped him off with both hands. Kumar and Zetz turned around. Whoa, what the hell, man?
But I thought you and he,
Wendell replied. It was all a big misunderstanding. Take a chill pill, Kumar answered. Plus, he and Kumar have been the ones planning this part. We need 'em, Zetz said, then smiled and waved at Jeff. Jeff gave Kumar and Zetz a friendly nod and waved them through. As they passed, he gave Wendell a spiteful glare, and Wendell sunk into his booster seat. The Starship Scam Likely lined up in front of the wormhole. Around them, several ships also waited.
Is this safe?
Wendell asked. Nope. Once they got the green signal, they passed into the wormhole. At this point, there wasn't much to do but wait.
Will this work?
Wendell asked. Stop asking questions.
Are we there yet?
Zetz and Kumar gave Wendell a harsh stare. 20 minutes later, they came out of the wormhole with a loud thunk that reverberated through the vacuum of space, as sound does. The crew was right. The killbots were planning an ambush, but instead of 2 or 3 kill ships, there were 30. Kumar turned to Zetz with wide eyes. It's a trap. Well, shit, muttered Zetz. Can you get us out of here? Not likely, said Kumar. The ship began to, dive. Diving is a very subjective term in the absence of gravity, Wendell mused, while holding down his vomit. The kill ships didn't bother with the spoken formalities as before, and attacked immediately. Laser pulses began littering the space. Kumar dodged, rolled, and pivoted the ship as best he could, but Starship Scam Likely was built for planet hopping, not dogfighting. As the ship spun and circled, Wendell caught glimpses of the wormhole with a steady thread of ships coming out, each with a pop and a bright light and a loud thunk sound. But not enough ships to provide a distraction. Dolly's voice came over the intercom.
The other wormholes didn't have kill ships. They must have focused their forces here.
Lucky us, Wendell thought. He then heard a terrible explosion and a grinding noise somewhere on the ship, and the ship began to shudder. They had been hit. "Get us out of here," Zet said to Kumar. "I'm trying. There's nowhere to go." Benny called through the intercom.
The technotronic stabilizer was hit. You can't pump the engine hard until I fix it.
Zetz asked, "Can you get us out of sight for a while? How about over there?" Zetz asked without pointing. This was one of those little things that irritated Wendell. Why would someone say, "over there," or "turn here," without pointing or giving a direction? What Zetz had been referring to was a much larger ship with cuts across the hull. Inside, a handful of passengers were waving and banging at the portholes. They were running out of air. Kumar punched it towards the floating barge, and Benny yelped out a swear. Kumar lined the Starship Scam Likely up with the other ship, and Zetz and Wendell unbuckled and ran to help. By the time they got to the lower level, Kumar lined up the ship's gate attachment to the larger ships. Zetz hit a button and the doors opened. Immediately, air started flowing out of Scam Likely and into the lower pressure of the damaged ship. "We only have a few minutes. Get everyone out," Zetz yelled. Wendell nodded and they rushed on board, shouting directions and helping others onto Scam Likely. There was another explosion and a long, loud scraping sound. The ship wouldn't last much longer. Once they were back on Scam Likely, Zetz confirmed with the passengers that was all of them before shutting the ship's gate. The air normalized and the wind died out. "I'll take care of them," said Wendell, and Zetz ran back to the flight deck. There were 7 crew members, and fortunately, they got away largely unharmed. One had a broken collarbone from falling against a table and several cuts. A couple of crew members' cuts were deeper and needed suturing. Wendell helped the more injured crew members to the med bay. From time to time, the ship would roll or spin, and this would make suturing wounds a bit more complicated. "It's not pretty, but it'll hold," he told them. Another crew member with a medic background aided the others. She wore her red hair up and wore horn-rimmed glasses. Wendell couldn't help but notice she filled out her flight suit quite nicely, then admonished himself and got back to work. The uninjured crew members helped Benny get the technotronic stabilizer working again and did other repairs as the ship took more hits. Wendell could see out of the medbay porthole, and there was still the rhythmic flashing of light as new ships came through the porthole. Dolly announced,
"Backup is on the way."
Wendell and the cute medic looked out the window and the flashes of light had stopped. A long pause followed and nothing seemed to happen. The kill ships were tearing into more and more ships. They looked at each other questioningly. Then the wormhole exploded. Well, not exactly exploded, but instead of a series of flashes of light, a fast strobe of bright light came forth. Now, instead of 1 or 2 ships popping out, a stream of ships, by the tens or maybe hundreds, rushed out without letting up. The new ships spilled into the battle area like a tsunami. The kill ships tried to coalesce, but they were overpowered. The convoy ships circled the kill ships. Some ships were outfitted with their own lasers and shot out the kill ships' laser capacities. Those without lasers got close enough to ram the kill ships and take out little pieces at a time. One ship was a floating concert stage with a band on it. Large plunger things popped out and attached to a kill ship. The speakers used vibration to create sound inside the kill ship, and the band played a cover of Joy to the World by Three Dog Night, and the killbots covered their ears. Kumar said, "I normally hate space bards, but for this I'll make an exception." And he clicked his beak approvingly to the beat of music traveling through space. One by one, the kill ships crumbled apart. The occasional killbot floated through space shooting with their laser pistols, but they were easily smashed into and destroyed. The large convoy had won. Zetz asked Wendell to join him in his office. He sat at his cluttered desk. The walls hung with pictures of Zetz shaking hands with official-looking creatures from all over the galaxy, and more than a few American presidents, and was that Jack Black? They drank Sanka, and Wendell relayed his adventures on Pariah 7 and St. Tetanus Medical Center. As they talked, Zetz listened, laughed, and studied Wendell. Zetz was good at studying others, sizing them up. Finally, he said, "I have something for you." He fished through a desk drawer and pulled out a yellow bracelet with a button on it. "Benny made these. It's a signal bracelet. If you ever need our help, press this button on the bracelet for 7 seconds. Then wait 7 seconds. Then press it again for 7 seconds. It will send an alert to me, lickety-split." Zetz lifted up his sleeve to show he wore a similar bracelet. "Oh, thank you. Here, give it a try." Wendell pushed the button, waited, pushed it again, and waited. "See, my bracelet lights up with yellow, so I know it's you. If, for example, my goddaughter, Rosie, alerts me, it lights up red. Red for Rosie. Pretty slick, huh?" Zetz sat back in his chair, smiled, and sipped his Sanka. "You'd like them." "How?" "Oh, I'm sorry. My best friends, Nick and Stevie." He turned a photo frame on his desk around to show Wendell a picture of a smiling man and woman sitting outside an ice cream shop. In Stevie's lap was a young girl with pigtails. Wendell asked, "Are they on Earth?" "No, why?" "Well, they look human." "Well, they are." Wendell almost dropped his Sanka. "Wait, they're human?" "Of course, humans are all over the galaxy, like ants or cockroaches. I mean, no offense." "But I thought we were just—" Wendell stopped himself. What had he thought, a year ago compared to now? Would he have believed he would become a licensed doctor of intergalactic medicine? Had he thought he would have a talking funnel cloud as a roommate, and they would go on all sorts of best bud wacky capers? No. The idea of humans living on other planets or space creatures living on Earth no longer surprised him. Quite the opposite. A life without a galaxy filled with different species felt abnormal. They look nice. They look happy." "They are. Rosie's older now, almost a young woman. Unfortunately, I don't get back to see them as often as I'd like. But that's the way it goes, I guess. Sometimes people drift apart. Over time." Zetz let those words hang in the air for a moment, then said, "Say, sport, I would like to make you an offer, and I just want you to think about it." "Okay, I'm listening." "We all know you have plans on Earth, but in the future, or even sooner than you might think, if you decide to get out a bit, we could use a ship physician. I was impressed at how well you took care of the injured back there. You have talent, I mean it. You stayed calm during an emergency, and I could really use you on our crew. Just think it over." "Thank you, Zetz. I really appreciate it, but my life is on Earth with Gale. It's my time to settle down and start a family, but thank you." "Of course, I thought I'd ask. And if you happen to change your mind, or even just need to say, get off planet for a while," Zetz tapped his bracelet, "you know how to find me." It would take a few more days to get to Earth than planned. The crew from the larger vessel needed to be dropped off at a nearby spaceport, which wasn't all that nearby. The extra time gave Wendell a chance to get to know Lilac, the cute medic with lilac-colored skin. Everyone in her race had different skin colors, and they were all named for the color they were born with. As a coincidence, she also knew Chip Messina. He had been her math tutor in university, and she had dinner with him and Lucy a couple of times when her ship was near Pariah 7. They talked about school and plans and the galaxy and life. And whenever Wendell and Lilac spent time talking, other crew members walked by, looked at them, and then wriggled their eyebrows. Sure, Lilac was pretty and smart and kind and funny, but Wendell's heart belonged to Gale. One day, Wendell was heading to the galley when Lilac ran up and wrapped her arms around him in a tight hug.
"I'm so glad you're with us,"
she said, shaken. Okay?"
"You didn't hear? The cruise ship you were supposed to be on was attacked by kill ships. They don't think there were any survivors."
Wendell absent-mindedly grabbed for his key necklace. The Starship Scam Likely finally dropped off the other crew and headed towards Earth. Wendell grew restless and couldn't wait to return. He paced the passageways and generally became antsy. One day, as he passed by Benny's workshop, he overheard Benny talking to Dolly.
"I don't think he heard."
"So does he know?"
"I don't think so."
"So shouldn't we tell him?"
"It's not our business, Benny. I just wish he knew before getting there."
"Knew what? Sorry, I couldn't help but overhear." Dolly scorned.
"What did you hear? And it's rude to eavesdrop."
"Well, just that someone doesn't know something about something. Pretty specific."
"Oh, well, we were just talking about one of those other crew members. He was talking shit about vets. But that's what's done is done."
"Totally. Can't get hung up on the past, I always say."
"Yep."
Benny and Dolly nodded in unison and raced back to work. Finally, the Starship Scam Likely reached Earth. Wendell said his goodbyes, gave hugs and handshakes, and was ready to be home. He turned to Benny and said, "Hey, this time, can't you just land and let me walk on?" There was a bright flash of light. A discount story time, discount idea. I still remember that time in elementary school when Tommy told a joke during lunch. I laughed so hard, milk shot out of my nipples. Thank you for listening, and it sounds like our hero Wendell has made it back on Earth. And that's where we'll leave off until next week, the finale, the season finale, the world event season finale of Season 2, plus a little sneak peek into Season 3. So until next time, be sure to play nice with others, be super duper kind to yourself, and as always, remember to laugh. Bye! If you are enjoying the show, please consider supporting Discount Storytime. You can do that by telling others about the show. Podcasts depend on word of mouth for growth, so this is perhaps the most important. Writing in. I love hearing from listeners about what the show is doing well and especially how the show can improve. Click on the link in the show notes or email me at mail@discountstorytime.com. And finally, Discount Storytime is on Patreon, with bonus content for subscribers. A free story, The Fall of Stumbly, is available now. Check it out at patreon.com/discountstorytime, or the link is in the show notes. And thank you so much for being a listener. Bye!